Well, the subject I will read is fostering inter-religious communication in Cyprus. And I have to clarify that I'm not reading and delivering an address on my own, but the address of Archbishop Christos II, Archbishop of Cyprus. Your Graces, Eminences, Reverend Fathers, Your Excellencies, dear Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all in peace. Irini Imin, Shalom Malek. Peace is not a word for greeting or word signifying the absence of war. It's something more than a simple word. The notion of peace is signifying the presence of God among people, regardless of their religious belief. The notion of peace is an inherent core value in all religions and reaches out to all those people who seek peace according to their own religious tradition and commitments. Especially at a time when the whole humanity is called to find answers and solutions to many substantial and major problems that our world is facing, religion can play a key role and reveal the way of love and respect for the rights of each person to believe, to dream, to hope for something that is unique to each of us. Recognize the fact that working for peace constitutes a primary expression of our responsibility, which is grounded on the essential goodness of all human beings by virtue of being in God's image. We have to face the challenge and to move forward beyond mere rhetorical expressions. Our ethical values must be incarnated into actions that will contribute to a culture of peace. Therefore, alternative ways that reject violence and war must constantly be pursued and persistently proclaimed. We have to reaffirm our common values of love, mutual respect, and understanding, and we have to foster interfaith dialogue within the spirit of the Holy Scripture. Let us love one another, for love is God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. He who doesn't love doesn't know God, for God is love. Distinguished participants, my homeland Cyprus is characterized by its multicultural nature since throughout its 10,000-year history. The island has been exposed to many civilizations and cultures as it stands at the crossroad of the continents of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Each culture has left a permanent mark in the course of our history. In addition, Cyprus has always been a place of religious pluralism where Greek Orthodox, Maronite, and Latin Catholic, Armenian Orthodox, and Turkish Muslim, as well as people of other faiths and denominations exist. Each religion is a bearer of the culture of the respected community and the marker of their identity. People from all these communities live together in peace and harmony for centuries. It grieves us to have to say that for the past half-century, human rights and religious freedom have been the obvious victim of the political conflict and the division of our island. According to the Charter of Human Rights, freedom of worship is the most important manifestation of religious freedom, from which derives the right of unrestricted worship. Stakeholders, therefore, should not hinder the expression of freedom or worship. It's their obligation to remove any barriers or restrictions on the exercise of worship. Unfortunately, in the northern part of the island, religious freedom has been neither respected nor implemented by the de facto authorities there. For our people, our churches are sacred places in which the sacraments of the Christian Orthodox faith are taking place, leading the faithful to become participants, shared horses of the grace of God. These are the places in which our people participate in every expression of religious and social life, from their birth to their death. Therefore, a strong spiritual and emotional connection between our people and our churches and other religious monuments has been developed. For this reason, it is important that our people should be able to access our churches and to be able to worship in them. To this day, permission to hold religious services is very limited and is only given for a very small number of churches. The Christian Orthodox monuments alone are more than 570 in number, while there are many others belonging to the Maronite and Armenian churches. The vast majority of these churches have had all their decoration, furnishings, and equipment removed and have been turned into museums, cultural, sports, and youth centers, and even into stables. There are also churches that have been converted into mosques, while some others stand inaccessible within military areas. In some cases, churches have been demolished. Our religious sites and monuments, our churches and monasteries, all that is sacred to us, our cemeteries, were plundered and destroyed in a brutal way. As a result, unique traces of the existence and presence of Christian population in the north of Cyprus vanished forever. What is more, religious items and artifacts with great importance of our faith, such as holy icons, sacred vessels, and prayer books, have been stolen. In addition, looters have removed unique and rare wall paintings, frescoes, and mosaics from churches with historic and religious importance. Many of them were illegally sent abroad and sold to auction houses, galleries, and private collectors. This is not the case as such in the area controlled by the Republic of Cyprus. Our Turkish Cypriots Muslim compatriots for nearly 5 decades have been similarly prevented by the de facto authority to visit their villages and worship in their mosque and pray in peace. We always stress the need for the freedom of the religious expression of our people in the land of their ancestors, and this implies for all our people, Muslim and Christian alike. There must be an end to all of this. For decades, our churches have remained abandoned in silence since neither access nor worship was permitted in them. Undoubtedly, the above situation constitutes a part of the tragic consequences of the division of the island and a bleak image of the recent past and the present. The Church of Cyprus knows that only through a sincere and open dialogue with the Turkish Cypriots will be able to overcome our differences and build a mutual trust. This is why we have personally been promoting dialogue with the Turkish Cypriot religious leadership, and we shall continue to do so for the sake of justice and peace and mutual understanding. I have no illusions, and I know very well that there is a difficult path to be followed and many challenges to be faced. And since no inter-religious communication existed for more than 50 years, breaking down the stereotypes of the other is one of the biggest. We understand that inter-religious dialogue is essential for breaking down any physical or psychological barriers that divide the island. As the Special Rapporteur on Religious Freedom, Dr. Heine Bielefeld rightly says to his report on the United Nations Human Rights Council, regular communication across religion boundaries is the most important precondition for fostering an understanding and preventing or overcoming mistrust between religious or belief groups, and that interreligious communication can help replace stereotypes and prejudices by real experiences. For that reason, we responded at once to the invitation of the Embassy of Sweden in Cyprus, which initiated the first dialogue between the religious leaders of Cyprus. This was in 2009. Since then, we began meetings with the present Mufti, Dr. Talib Atalay, and his predecessor, Mufti Dr. Yusuf Suikmet. The main purpose of these first meetings was to create a solid ground on which the two religious leaders would be able to meet regularly and discuss their problems and to develop trust and mutual understanding on issues related to religious freedom and human rights respect in the island. In this process, we understand that no giant leaps can be made immediately, but only small steps forward, and since 2009, a lot of steps forward have been made. Indicatively, I can mention the following. In the context of promotion of interreligious dialogue in 2011, we organized together an interfaith young encounter with the participation of Greek and Turkish Cypriots together with young Israelis and Palestinians. The main purpose of this initiative was to bring together young people of different faiths, Christians, Muslims, and Jews, and from different nationality, and through dialogue to understand better each other's aspirations, concerns, and beliefs. In addition, young people had an opportunity to discuss how each religion teaches human rights, including the right of religions, freedom, and worship, and how these teachings can be applied in their daily life. Moreover, in 2012, Bishop Porphyrios of Neapolis visited Hala Sultan Teke for the first time, and the Mufti agreed to send his representative to visit Apostolos Andreas Monastery together with Bishop Christoforos of Carpasia. Unfortunately, the latter did not materialize as a consequence of the travel ban which was imposed on Bishop Christoforos Carpasia by the Turkish Cypriot authorities. We were also able to solve practical software which have been in the way of confidence building. For example, used candles from the Apostolos Andreas Monastery were transported to the government control area for recycling. With our intervention, Imam Shakir, who is responsible for Hala Sultan Teke in Larnaca, was able to have access and use a locked up office and meeting spaces at the Teke. At the request of the Mufti, we intervened for Greek Cypriot to our government to allow the transport of carpets to cover the needs of the mosque from the northern part. Breakthrough in our efforts for freedom of movement and freedom of worship was the mutual agreement we achieved that lifted the ban of free movement for Bishop of Christoforos of Carpasia, who was able to celebrate and to conduct the divine liturgy at Apostolos Andreas Monastery in November 2013, for the first time after 4 years. At the same time, the Mufti was granted special permission to cross to the government control area and prayed at Hala Sultan Teke for the first time. Under this special permission, Mufti was able to visit us on the occasion of our name day in order to congratulate us personally. It was the first time after decades to experience such a gesture in Cyprus. The need to include in our dialogue the Maronite and the Armenian communities in the dialogue became obvious soon in our meetings and in our discussions. The Maronite Archbishop Joseph Sueif and the Armenian Archbishop Varouhan Herkelian welcomed this idea. All of us agreed with the principle of establishing the first inter-religious council for peace, and we expressed our commitment to it. This common commitment was reiterated again during September 2013 in an inter-religious roundtable meeting together with the Special Rapporteur, Dr. Heine Bielefeld, when he visited Cyprus. Since then, we have developed excellent cooperation with the Special Rapporteur on freedom of religion or belief and his team, as well as the staff of the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. The Office of the Religious Track, which is facilitating the dialogue under the auspices of the Embassy of Sweden in Nicosia, assisted the religious leaders to study and respond to the report of the Special Rapporteur on Religious Freedom or Belief, and commented on his report in the UN Human Rights Council session in March 2013. The independent expert acknowledged and expressed his praise and appreciation to our efforts as religious leaders to promote and to advance inter-religious communication for the protection of human rights and religious freedom in our long-suffered island. As one of the few experienced expanders for inter-religious communication and peace building in the world. Finally, all religious leaders were encouraged by the joint message of the political leaders agreed on February 11, 2014, stating that the status quo in the island is unacceptable, that human rights and fundamental freedom, as well as each other's distinct identity and integrity, should be respected. As the religious leaders, we welcome their expressed determination to resume negotiations in a result-oriented manner. With the support of the Ambassador of Sweden in Cyprus, Mr. Klaus Gierov, and the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General, Mrs. Lisa Battenheim, we issued, as religious leaders, a joint declaration in which we welcome the joint declaration of Mr. Anastasiadis and Mr. Eroglu, and we underline that religion was and still is a victim of the protracted conflict. For too many decades, we are not able to meet, to listen, and to understand each other. For the last years, we have agreed to meet regularly, openly express our respect, and listen to another. Our encounters have helped us to get to know each other and understand the other's needs. Together, we have tried to find practical solutions, build trust and confidence, and succeeded. We also affirm our responsibility to ensure that political conflict is resolved, and we express our determination to the dialogue, knowing that there is no alternative to communication, cooperation, and coexistence. Distinguished participants, peace building is both an internal and an external process. External peace derives from the internal and consequently can only be achieved if all of us as individuals experience the peace that can be found in our hearts and in our souls. This inner peace is given by God and is not subjected to the ravages of the people and of time. It has therefore the power to break down those psychological barriers that still exist inside us. It is this inner redemption who has the power to demolish the walls dividing our people and our world. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives, I give you to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mr. Director. We are ready to collect some questions. Yeah, please.
Hello, my name is Tarina Cardwell. I'm a PhD student at the ICD. You mentioned that the religious leaders on both sides recently came out in support of the joint declaration to renew negotiations for unifying Cyprus that was published in February. And I went to a seminar roundtable in Berlin regarding that declaration, and they made a point to point out that the religious leaders on both sides had come out in support of that document and of the renewed negotiations. And I'm just wondering what you believe the role of the religious leaders can be in now furthering to encourage those communications on the political level to help narrate a unified future for this island of Cyprus.
Thank you for your question. A wise man said once that the role of religion is not to make politics. The role of religion is to make politics possible. In this perspective, that's the role of our religious leaders in Cyprus, to help to show the way to our politicians how they will be able to find a solution in Cyprus issue.